My name is Margaret Louise Thompson, 71 years old, living in a cozy split-level home in Bloomington, Minnesota. The kind of place where winters are long and neighbors still wave from their driveways. I've called this house mine since 1978, when my late husband Harold and I scraped together a down payment from his factory job at the old Ford plant and my shifts waitressing at the diner downtown. Harold passed 6 years ago from complications after a stroke, leaving me with memories, a modest pension, Social Security checks that barely cover the rising cost of heating oil, and a credit card linked to my savings account for emergencies only. That account held $58,000, our nest egg, built penny by penny for doctor bills, home repairs, or maybe one day a little trip to see the Grand Canyon like we'd always talked about. Our only child, Ryan James Thompson, now 36, single after a messy breakup, working sporadically as a freelance graphic designer, had moved back in 2 years ago. "Just until I get back on my feet, Mom," he'd said, flashing that charming smile that always reminded me of Harold. I didn't mind. I loved having him around. The house felt less empty with his laughter echoing from the basement where he set up his office. I cooked his favorites, meatloaf on Tuesdays, apple pie from scratch. I even slipped him cash for client lunches when his gigs dried up. Family, right? That's what you do. It started innocently enough. A few months back, Ryan asked to borrow my credit card for gas and a quick lunch. Mine's acting up. I handed it over without a second thought. He came back with a coffee for me and a new sketch pad. Harmless. Then came the Thursday in early June. I was in the kitchen, kneading dough for cinnamon rolls, the kind Harold loved with extra icing, when my phone buzzed with an alert from the bank app. Unusual activity detected. My heart skipped. I wiped flour off my hands and opened it. The list unfolded like a nightmare. $3,200 at Delta Airlines for round-trip tickets to Paris. $1,800 at a boutique hotel in the Marais district. $900 at Louis Vuitton for essentials. $1,200 on Michelin-starred dinners, wine tours in Bordeaux, spa days. By the time I scrolled to the bottom, $38,600 had vanished from my linked savings, maxed out the card's limit, and dipped deep into the account. The balance left, under $20,000. I called Ryan's phone, voicemail, texted, "What is this? Call me now." His reply came an hour later, a photo of him grinning in front of the Eiffel Tower, champagne flute in hand. "Mom, surprise! Needed a reset after the breakup. Europe is magic. Girlfriend and I are living it up. Don't worry. I'll pay back when that big client pays out. Love you." Girlfriend? He hadn't mentioned one. And payback? With what? His big client was always next month. I sat at the kitchen table for hours, staring at the screen. The dough rose untouched on the counter. The house smelled sweet, but my stomach churned. I remembered Ryan as a boy, curly-haired, wide-eyed, clutching my hand at Harold's funeral. "I'll take care of you, Mom." Now this. That night I didn't sleep. I paced the living room, touching the things Harold and I had collected over the years. The antique grandfather clock in the hall, ticking steadily since 1890, a gift from his parents. The set of sterling silver flatware in the china cabinet, Gorham pattern, full service for 12, barely used. The vintage wall clocks scattered around, Harold's hobby, restoring them in the garage on weekends. Ryan had always admired them. "These are cool, Mom. Vintage vibes. They'll be worth a fortune someday. My fortune, right?" He'd laugh, but his eyes were serious. I felt a cold clarity settle in. Not rage, not yet. but resolve. He hadn't just taken money. He'd taken my security, my peace, my trust. And he'd done it with a smiley emoji from across the ocean. By morning, I'd decided. No police, yet. No begging. I'd reclaim what was mine, starting with the things he'd always assumed were his. I opened my laptop, old but functional, and searched Antique Buyers, Bloomington, Minnesota. The first hit, Evergreen Antiques and Appraisals. A kind-voiced woman named Clara answered. "How can we help, dear?" "I have some pieces," I said, voice steadier than I felt. "Silver flatware, clocks. House call possible?" She was there by noon. Clara arrived in a sensible van, white gloves in her bag, loop around her neck, mid-50s, warm smile, the kind of person who made you feel seen. We sat in the dining room over tea. Instant, but she didn't mind. I showed her the silver first. Sterling, Gorham buttercup pattern, monogrammed with Harold's family initials. "This is lovely," she said, examining under the loop. "Early 20th century, excellent condition, full set, knives, forks, spoons, servers. Rarely used, I bet." "Weddings only," I confirmed. Next, the clocks. A Seth Thomas mantel clock from 1925. Brass works polished by Harold. A Waterbury wall clock with pendulum, circa 1880. And the grandfather in the hall. Oak case, moon phase dial, chimes that rang like church bells. Clara whistled softly. "Your husband had an eye. These are collector pieces. Condition is museum quality." When she finished, she sat back. "Conservatively, silver, $8,500. Clocks together, $12,000. I can offer $18,000 cash today. Fair market, no auction fees." I blinked. 18,000. Half what Ryan took, but a start. My hands shook slightly. "Why so much?" I asked. "Provenance and care. People pay for stories like these." I thought of Ryan lounging in a Paris cafe, sipping espresso bought with my money. "I'll take it." She counted out the cash, hundreds in neat stacks. I signed receipts. She loaded the pieces carefully, wrapping each in bubble and cloth. As she left, she paused. "This feels like more than selling, Mrs. Thompson. You okay?" I smiled thinly. "Better every minute." Alone, I sat with the money. Didn't hide it. Drove to the bank, deposited $15,000 into a new account. My name only. PIN protected. The rest I kept for immediate use. That evening, grocery shopping. Not at the budget store with dented cans, but the upscale co-op downtown. Organic ribeye steaks, wild-caught salmon, aged Gouda, fresh berries, artisanal bread, a bottle of Merlot I'd never splurged on. Dark chocolate with almonds, peaches, juicy, imported. Back home, I set the table with paper plates, silver gone, lit a candle, ate slowly. The steak was tender, wine rich. For the first time in years, I tasted without guilt. Ryan texted, "Mom, Paris is insane. Eiffel at night equals magic. Met this girl. Total vibe. Signal spotty, but miss you." Photo. Him with a brunette. Sen in background. I didn't reply. Instead, I researched more. The china cabinet held Haviland porcelain, roses and gold rims, appraised online at $6,000. Harold's pocket watch collection in the drawer, worth $4,500 easy. I wasn't done. The morning after Clara drove away with the silver flatware and the 3 most valuable clocks, the house felt strangely lighter. Not hollow. Lighter. The china cabinet stood empty where the Gorham had gleamed for decades, and the hallway was silent without the grandfather clock's steady tick. Harold used to wind it every Sunday after church. The chime had been our soundtrack for 40 years. Now the silence rang, but it wasn't lonely. It was space. Space I hadn't known I needed. I woke early, habit from years of diner shifts, and made coffee the old way. Percolator on the stove, no pods or fancy machines. I carried the mug to the living room and sat in Harold's recliner. Still smelled faintly of his aftershave after all these years. The cash from Clara, $18,000 minus the $3,000 I'd already deposited, sat in my purse on the coffee table like a quiet promise. I didn't hide it under the mattress like I might have 20 years ago. I trusted myself now. First thing, the bank. I drove to the branch on Lyndale Avenue, the same one where Harold and I opened our first joint account in 1979. The teller, a young woman named Aisha, smiled when I asked to open a new savings account. "Separate from the joint one?" she asked gently. "Yes," I said. "Just mine." She didn't pry. Set it up with online access, two-factor authentication, and a high-yield option I never knew existed. I deposited $12,000 cash. The rest stayed liquid for what came next. Back home, I opened my laptop again. Searched Antique Porcelain Appraisers, Minnesota. Found a specialist in St. Paul, Dr. Evelyn Moreau, retired professor from the U of M, now doing private appraisals. Her website was simple. Photos of fine china, testimonials from estates. No flashy graphics. I emailed her photos of the Haviland Limoges service. 12 place settings, rose garlands, gold rims, never used except for Harold's retirement dinner in 2005. She replied within the hour. "These are exceptional. French, early 1900s, full dinner service with serving pieces. I'd like to see them in person. House call tomorrow?" She arrived at 10 a.m. sharp, silver hair in a neat bun, tweed blazer, carrying a leather case and white cotton gloves. We sat at the dining table, now bare without silver. She examined each plate, saucer, cup, turning them over, checking marks, running a finger along the gold. "Prisintine," she murmured. "No crazing, no chips. This pattern, Rose's Pompadour, is highly sought after by collectors. Full set like this, $7,200 to $8,500 retail. I can offer $6,000 cash today." I nodded slowly. 6,000. Another piece of the hole Ryan had dug, filled. "Why the discount?" I asked. "Immediate cash, no auction risk, but fair. Very fair." I accepted. She counted the bills, crisp hundreds again. I signed the paperwork. She packed the china in padded crates like it was priceless. To someone, it had been. As she loaded the van, she turned back. "Mrs. Thompson, may I ask? This feels personal. Are you all right?" I met her eyes. "I'm getting there." After she left, I didn't sit and mourn the empty cabinet. I went shopping. Real shopping. Not the discount run. The co-op market in Edina. Fresh Alaskan salmon fillets, thick-cut bacon from a local farm, a wedge of aged cheddar that cost more than my old weekly grocery budget, heirloom tomatoes still on the vine, a pint of raspberries so red they looked painted, a crusty sourdough boule, and a bottle of Cabernet Sauvignon from Napa, something Harold and I used to dream about but never bought. At checkout, $142.87. A year ago, I would have put half back. Today, I swiped the new debit card without blinking. Home, I unpacked slowly. The fridge light came on bright. Empty shelves suddenly alive with color. Salmon on the bottom shelf, berries in glass bowls, cheese in the crisper. I stood back and just looked. My fridge had never looked like this, not even at Christmas. That evening I cooked pan-seared salmon with lemon butter, roasted asparagus. First time buying it fresh instead of frozen. A simple salad with balsamic I hadn't used in years. I set the table with cloth napkins, the good ones I'd saved, for company. Lit a candle, played soft jazz from Harold's old record player. Every bite was deliberate, Luxurious. Mine. Ryan texted mid-meal. Mom, Bordeaux wine tour was unreal. Tasted vintages older than me, LOL. GF says hi. How's the house? Still boring without me? Photo attached. Him and the brunette clinking glasses at a vineyard. I took a sip of Cabernet, velvety, deep, and replied for the first time, managing fine. Enjoy your trip. No emojis, no questions, just truth. He didn't respond for 2 days. Meanwhile, I kept going. Called a vintage watch dealer in Minneapolis, specialized in pocket watches. Harold had collected 12 over the years. Waltham, Elgin, Illinois Watch Company, all restored by hand. The dealer, a quiet man named Leonard, came the next afternoon. He examined them under magnification, wound each carefully, listened to the ticks. Beautiful work. Your husband was skilled. Full collection in this condition. $5,800 cash. I took it. By the end of the week, I'd sold the Haviland china, $6,000, pocket watches, $5,800, and a few smaller items from the garage. Old tools Harold never parted with, $1,200. Total added, over $13,000. Combined with Clara's money, my new account sat at $42,000, almost back to where it started before Ryan's reset. I opened a brokerage account online, simple index funds, low fees. Talked to a fiduciary advisor on the phone, free consultation. You're in a strong position, Mrs. Thompson, she said. This can grow steadily. For the first time, steadily sounded like possibility, not survival. Ryan called on day 10, voice crackling over international roaming. Mom? Hey, Paris was epic, but we're in Nice now. Beaches are insane. How are you holding up? You sound different. I was on the porch, glass of wine in hand, watching fireflies blink in the yard. I'm good, Ryan. Quiet, but good. He laughed, nervous. Quiet? You're probably missing me. Boil some ramen or something. I'll bring you French macarons when I get back. Promise. I smiled into the dark. I'm finding better things to eat. Another pause. What does that mean? Resources, I said calmly. Ones you didn't know about. He chuckled, but it was forced. Resources? Like what? Change in the couch cushions? Come on, Mom. Don't be dramatic. It's just money. I'll Venmo you when my client pays. I took a slow sip. No need. I've handled it. Silence stretched. Then, what do you mean, handled it? I looked at the empty spots in the living room through the window. I sold some things. The silver, the clocks, the china, the watches, fair prices. Proceeds covered what you took, and more. His voice sharpened. You sold Grandpa's stuff? Mom, those were family heirlooms. They were supposed to be mine someday. They were mine, I corrected gently. And someday isn't today. You took my today. He sputtered. This is insane. You're overreacting. It was a vacation, self-care. You should try it sometime. I am, I said. Right now. He hung up, abruptly. I finished the wine, watching the stars come out over the suburbs. The night was warm, crickets humming. The house was quieter without the clocks, but my heart beat steady. The silence in the house after selling the clocks and china wasn't oppressive anymore. It was peaceful, like the moment after a long winter when the first warm breeze comes through the screen door. No ticking grandfather clock to remind me of time passing without Harold. No gleaming silver to polish just in case company came. The spaces they left were blank canvases now, and I started filling them on my terms. Mornings became mine. I woke naturally with the sun filtering through the bedroom blinds. No alarm blaring for early shifts anymore. Coffee percolated while I stood at the kitchen window, watching cardinals at the feeder Ryan had hung years ago and never refilled. I refilled it daily now, with premium seed from the co-op. The birds came in flocks, bright red flashes against the green backyard. Small joy, but mine. By day 12 of Ryan's trip, my new savings account had grown to $48,000. Interest ticking up daily. Plus the proceeds from 2 more small sales. A vintage Singer sewing machine Harold bought me in 1985. $1,400 to a collector who restored them. And a collection of depression glass bowls and vases from my mother, $2,200. I didn't feel guilt handing them over. Each piece had been saved for Ryan someday. Someday had come and gone without him noticing. I treated myself to routines I'd denied for decades. A weekly manicure at the little salon downtown. Soft pink polish, no chips from dishwashing. A new robe, plush terry cloth. Not the threadbare one I'd worn since the 90s. Fresh flowers from the market, peonies when in season, lilies otherwise, always on the kitchen table. I read novels again. Library books with worn covers, stories of women who reinvented themselves late in life. And the food. God, the food. I stopped buying in bulk, just in case. I shopped for one, for today. The co-op became my ritual. Wednesday afternoons, reusable bags in hand. I bought what looked good, what I wanted. Thick ribeye steaks marbled with fat, fresh wild mushrooms, asparagus spears crisp and green, a wheel of brie that smelled like heaven, heirloom tomatoes bursting with juice, a crusty baguette, still warm from the oven, dark chocolate truffles dusted with cocoa, and wine. Good wine. Cabernet, Pinot Noir, even a chilled Chardonnay for summer evenings. One night I cooked a full feast, seared ribeye with garlic butter, roasted mushrooms and asparagus, a caprese salad with balsamic glaze, warm bread dipped in olive oil. I set the table properly, cloth napkin, wine glass, candle flickering. Ate slowly, savoring every bite. The steak melted. The wine warmed from the inside. No TV. Just the sound of crickets through the open window, and my own breathing. Halfway through, my phone buzzed. Ryan, video call. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. His face filled the screen, tanned, smiling, background of a sunlit terrace overlooking the Mediterranean. A woman's laugh in the background. Mom, hey, we're in Monaco now. Casino night last night was wild. How's everything back home? I took a slow bite of steak, chewed deliberately. Fine. Quiet. He squinted at the screen. You're eating steak? Like real steak? Where'd you get money for that? I sipped wine. Sold some things, remember? His smile faltered. Yeah, about that. Mom, you can't just sell Grandpa's clocks and stuff. Those were heirlooms. Family history. What if I wanted them someday? You wanted a Paris vacation more, I said calmly. You took $38,600 for it. I replaced it. He laughed, forced, uncomfortable. Okay, dramatic. It was a one-time thing, self-care after the breakup. You always taught me to take care of myself. I taught you responsibility, too. The woman, his GF, leaned into frame. Blonde, younger, designer sunglasses perched on her head. Hi, Mrs. Thompson. Ryan talks about you all the time. Thanks for the card. Europe's been life-changing. I nodded politely. Enjoy it. Ryan's tone shifted, irritated now. Look, Mom, I get you're mad. But selling everything? That's extreme. Those clocks were worth way more than you got. You got ripped off. I got fair offers, I said. Cash, immediate, no regrets. He rubbed his face. Just Stop selling stuff. Wait till I get back. We'll figure out a payment plan. I've got a gig lined up. Big one. Pays in September. I looked at the empty china cabinet in the background of my view. I don't need a plan. I've handled it. Silence. Then, you're different. Cold. I'm not cold, I said softly. I'm awake. He ended the call abruptly. I finished dinner in peace. Washed the dishes by hand. Slow. Meditative. Went to bed early. Full and calm. The next week brought more. I sold Harold's old tool collection from the garage. Wrenches, planes, chisels he'd used to restore furniture. A local woodworker paid $2,800. The garage-ish felt emptier, but my account grew. I started giving back too. Dropped off bags of clothes I hadn't worn in years to the local shelter. Volunteered one afternoon a week at the community food pantry, packing boxes, chatting with neighbors. People asked about Ryan. I smiled. He's traveling. One evening, Ryan texted a long message. Mom, GF and I are extending the trip. Italy next. Need another $2,000 for trains/hotels. Promise I'll pay everything back when I land a contract. You know I'm good for it. Don't be petty. Sell one more thing if you have to. Love you. I stared at the screen for a long time, then typed, no. Send. Blocked his number for 24 hours. Needed the quiet. When I unblocked, voicemails flooded in, angry, pleading, accusatory. Mom, you're being selfish. This is my life reset. You have savings. You sold my inheritance. Grandpa would be ashamed. I'm coming home early. We need to talk. I didn't reply. Instead, I booked myself a spa day. First one ever. Massage, facial, manicure. Sat in a quiet room with cucumber water and soft music. Felt my shoulders drop for the first time in years. Back home, I opened the fridge. Full. Colorful. Mine. I poured a glass of Pinot Noir, sat on the porch swing Harold installed in 1995, and watched the sunset paint the sky orange over the suburbs. Ryan could scream from Europe all he wanted. I was done listening. Ryan's flight landed at Minneapolis-St. Paul on a humid July evening. Day 28 of his reset. I knew the schedule because he'd texted it the night before, casual as if nothing had changed. Back tomorrow. Pick me up? Need to talk about the money stuff. Love ya. I didn't reply. Didn't go to the airport. Let him take an Uber like any adult. I spent the day preparing. Not for reconciliation, but for clarity. The fridge was stocked fuller than ever. 2 thick ribeyes wrapped in butcher paper, fresh Atlantic salmon, a wedge of truffle brie, heirloom tomatoes sliced and drizzled with balsamic, organic strawberries in a glass bowl, artisanal charcuterie, prosciutto roses, salami, olives stuffed with garlic, a warm sourdough baguette, dark chocolate truffles, and 2 bottles of chilled champagne. One for celebration, one just because I could. The kitchen smelled of fresh basil and lemon from the herb pots I'd started on the windowsill. I set the dining table for one. Good china, the everyday set, not the sold Haviland. Cloth napkin folded neatly, candle in a simple holder. No place for him. This was my dinner, my evening, my home. At 7:38 p.m., headlights swept the driveway. A car door slammed, footsteps on the porch, familiar but heavier now. The front door opened without knocking. Mom, I'm home. Ryan's voice, bright, expectant, like he'd been gone for a weekend instead of a month. He dropped his duffel in the entryway, same spot he always did, kicked off his sneakers and headed straight for the kitchen. God, that flight was brutal. Economy sucks. I'm starving. What's for... He yanked open the fridge door. The light spilled out cold and bright. He froze. Ribeyes gleaming under plastic, salmon pink and fresh, brie soft and veined, strawberries red and plump, charcuterie arranged like a magazine photo, champagne bottles sweating on the shelf, no empty shelves, no discount yogurt, no half-used ketchup bottles. His shoulders went rigid. What? The actual hell? He spun, saw me standing in the doorway, arms loosely crossed, calm in my robe and slippers. Mom. His eyes darted from the fridge to the empty china cabinet, the bare wall where the grandfather clock used to stand, the silent hallway. No ticking, no silver gleam. Where's everything? The clocks, the silver, Grandpa's watches. I stepped forward, poured myself a glass of champagne. The cork had popped earlier, soft hiss still echoing in memory. Sold, all of it, fair appraisals, cash in hand. Proceeds replaced what you took, and gave me some breathing room. His face drained beneath the tan. You sold my inheritance? Those were family pieces. You always said they'd be mine someday. They were mine, I corrected quietly. And someday isn't today. You took my today. $38,600 for Paris, Nice, Monaco. I took yours. He laughed, short, disbelieving. This is insane. You're punishing me for one vacation? It was self-care. After everything, the breakup, the stress. You couldn't even spot me a trip? I sipped champagne, crisp bubbles on my tongue. Self-care doesn't mean stealing from your mother's retirement. He paced, hands in his hair. I was going to pay it back. The client was supposed to pay last week. Delay, that's all. You didn't have to sell everything. I didn't have to, I agreed. But I chose to, because waiting for supposed to got expensive. He stopped, stared at the open fridge again, grabbed a strawberry, big, perfect, bit into it savagely. Juice ran down his chin. You're eating like this now? Truffles? Champagne? While I was scraping by in hostels half the time? You weren't scraping, I said. You were living large, on my card. His voice rose, cracking. This is elder abuse or something. You can't just liquidate family history because you're mad. I set my glass down. Call it what you want. I have receipts, bank statements, your texts admitting the charges, your photos boasting about it. If you push, the fraud department's ready. I haven't filed yet. That's your grace period. He staggered back against the counter. Mom, please, I didn't mean... I thought you'd understand. You always understood. I understood sacrifice, I said softly. I understood giving up dreams so you could have yours. What I didn't understand was that you thought my life was yours to spend. Tears now, anger mixed with something like shame. I hate this. I hate you for doing this. The words landed, but they didn't break me. You can hate me, but you can't take from me anymore. He sank into a chair at the table, my table, stared at the candle flame. What now? Now? I leaned against the doorway. You decide. Get a job, real one. Pay rent if you stay here. Respect boundaries, or pack what's yours and go. But this house, this fridge, this life, it's mine. Not ours. Not anymore. He looked up, really looked. Saw the woman who'd raised him, not the ATM he'd assumed. You're serious. Dead serious. Silence stretched, long, heavy. The fridge hummed softly behind him. Finally, he whispered, I need time. You have tonight, I said. Sleep in your room if you want. But tomorrow, choices start. I turned off the kitchen light, left him in the glow from the open fridge, shocked, small, surrounded by luxury he hadn't earned. I went upstairs, closed my bedroom door, and slept deeply. No guilt, no second guessing. The scream had come, but the house stayed mine, quiet, full, free. Ryan stayed 3 more nights after the fridge confrontation. Silent, sulking, sleeping in the basement room he'd claimed as his own. He didn't slam doors, didn't beg, just existed in the house like a shadow, eating cereal from the pantry, the cheap stuff I'd kept for backup, scrolling his phone, avoiding eye contact. I didn't push. I cooked for myself, ate on the porch, read in the living room with the windows open to the summer night air. The house held us both, but the space between us felt vast. On the 4th morning, he came upstairs while I was making coffee. Hair messy, eyes red from lack of sleep or tears, or both. He stood in the doorway. "I'm leaving today," he said quietly. "Got a couch to crash on in Minneapolis. Friend from design school. He says I can stay till I find something steady." I nodded, poured a second mug without asking, slid it across the counter. "Sit if you want." He did, slowly, like the chair might bite. We sat in silence for a minute, steam rising from the mugs. "I'm sorry," he finally said. The words came out small, cracked. "Not just for the money. For everything. For treating you like an ATM. For thinking the heirlooms were already mine. For not seeing you." I looked at him. Really looked. The boy who used to climb into my lap after nightmares. Now a man who'd learned consequences the hard way. "I accept the sorry," I said. "But words aren't payment. Actions are." He nodded. "I know. I'm getting a real job. Applied to 3 places yesterday. Graphic design at a marketing firm. Even retail, if I have to. No more freelancing, when it comes. I'll pay you back. Every cent. Monthly. Starting when I get paid." "Good." Another silence. Then, "Can I still come by sometimes? Not to stay. Just visit." I studied his face. "If you call first. If you respect the house. If you don't ask for money or things. Yes." He exhaled. Relief mixed with shame. "Thank you, Mom." He packed quietly, left with his duffel and a small box of clothes, hugged me at the door. Awkward, brief, but real. "I love you," he whispered. "I love you too," I said. "Prove it by growing up." The door closed. The house settled back into its quiet. Months passed like seasons. Slow, steady, changing. Ryan got the job. Entry-level designer at a small agency downtown. Pays okay. Benefits. Steady paycheck. He rented a 1-bedroom in a converted warehouse near the river. Small, but his. He started sending $300 a month. Automatic transfer. No reminders needed. Never missed one. Sometimes he'd text, "Paid this month. Thanks for believing I could." Or photos, him at a desk with a monitor, coffee mug that said, "World's okayest designer." I'd reply, "Proud of you." We talked every couple of weeks. Not deep at first. Weather, work, the Vikings game. Then slowly more. How therapy was helping him with impulse control. How he'd started volunteering at an animal shelter on weekends. Reminds me of the dog we had when I was 10. No demands, no excuses. Just progress. I kept my routines. The fridge stayed full. Not extravagant every day, but never bare. I bought the good coffee beans, fresh salmon when it looked nice, peaches in summer. I took myself to the movies, matinees with popcorn. Joined a book club at the library, mostly women my age laughing over mysteries and memoirs. Started a small garden in the backyard. Tomatoes, basil, zinnias. Watched them grow. One evening in October, Ryan asked to come for dinner. Nothing big, just talk. I said yes. He arrived with flowers, lilies, my favorite, and a bottle of the same Cabernet I'd started buying. We cooked together. Steak, baked potatoes, green beans. Simple but shared. Over dinner, he said, "I still think about the clocks sometimes. The silver. I miss them. Not the money. The memories." I nodded. I miss them too, but I don't miss the weight of waiting for you to value them. He looked down. I get it now. I was selfish. I thought your life was background to mine. It wasn't, I said gently, but it is now. He smiled, small, sad, real. I'm glad you chose yourself. You look happy. I am. He left after coffee, hugged me longer this time. See you next month? Call first, I reminded him. I will. The door closed. I stood in the quiet house, lights low, fridge humming softly, full of tomorrow's meals. I poured the last of the wine, sat on the porch swing, watched the stars come out over the suburbs. I raised my glass to the night sky. To Harold, I whispered. To us. To me. The wind answered soft through the leaves. Freedom doesn't taste like revenge. It tastes like peace, and it's the best meal I've ever had.